Ziyanda Ngcobo is our senior politics reporter who joins me here at the rock floor, that board behind us. Good morning, Ziyanda. It hasn't seen a lot of movement overnight. In fact, our reporter Kopano Gumbi telling us that from 10 o'clock last night, that number went from about 93% to 96%. But the IEC has clarified. It says the count is actually done. The number you're seeing on the board is what has been audited and verified.
Absolutely, and I think for the IEC, they're being extra careful to ensure that everything is done correctly, especially with all the issues that they've been facing, especially now with the threats to possibly take, the IEC to court and actually have a recount. Our colleague Bilani Bahadi was covering an area where they've called for a recount of some of those ballots, right? So, and Michelle, even before we got to this stage, that in the build-up, the IEC has been criticized by political parties for the way in which they've handled themselves in the registration process, the candidate list process, and I guess the IEC has also come out to say, well, they've only had about 40-odd days, 47 days, to actually put this election together. In fact, Simon Mabolo, the day the Constitutional Court handed down the ruling, he admitted on that day, a part of his reaction was to say that he's concerned about how credible, free and fair these elections would be with such a limited time frame, given the fact that also we saw an increased number of participants in this election. The ballot paper was longer, there were logistical matters that they had to deal with. It's the first time they rolled out the voter management device. So to be fair to the IEC, there were lots of things that they had to manage within a short space of time.
Yeah, what did Simon Mabolo say yesterday? Actually went as far as to say his advice to electoral bodies around the world would be, if you are told to hold an election in almost half the time that you ordinarily have, his advice would be you should outright refuse to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there is a risk that comes with political parties continuously bashing the IEC. It's not to say that the IEC should be shielded from any forms of constructive criticism, but there is a danger to our democracy if you consistently have political parties undermining the credibility and legitimacy of a Chapter 9 institution such as the IEC, because that at some stage poses a direct threat, because you, when you speak about whatever issues you have against the IEC, you're creating doubts in the mind of the electorate about even the election results, and that already then threatens to subvert democracy, right? And so I think as we now wait for the announcement of the results, I think there will be some sort of a change or in tone from the political parties. I think even from yesterday afternoon, you could see a shift in the tone from the political parties, and I think that's by and large because of the election results, which have hammered some have actually, come up, and this is their election, the smaller parties in particular, and it's a sobering moment now. And it brings me to my next point about whether or not certain political parties can afford to say, I won't work with so-and-so. As we've seen, Action SA and Freedom Front Plus have already said immediately that they have no intentions of working with the ANC. And
Herman Mashaba is saying it will take 300 years before he works with the ANC.
And can he really afford to say that, though, Michelle? If you look at the dynamic in Johannesburg, for an example, it's neck and neck with the DA. If you look at Nelson Mandela Bay, a similar matter has unfolded. The DA has said that it's willing to work with any party, including the ANC, except for in Nelson Mandela Bay. And then you have the dynamic in Johannesburg, where the EFF and Action SA are not too far apart from each other in terms of the numbers. Last time I checked, I think Action SA, the projections were that they'd be at around 17%, EFF would be at around 11%, and then you have the ANC and the DA. So in all likelihood, could we see a situation where the ANC and the DA work together to sort of monopolize, because they have had a lot of their numbers taken away from the smaller political parties? But what would that look like? The one party is viewed as corrupt corrupt, the other is viewed as racist. Is this going to be about ideology, or will it be really about service delivery? I think this local government election not only gives the temperature for 2024, but it will also test whether or not these political parties are truly committed to service delivery, because your commitment will show in setting aside party politics and really saying what are the key fundamental non-negotiable principles or things from our manifestos that we can combine to ensure the best outcome for the citizens.
Yeah. Can we find middle ground between the left and the right?
Yeah.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, thanks very much for that indeed. And of course, we've got a lot more of that kind of analysis coming to you as those results start coming in. We're talking Herman Mashaba, we're talking the Democratic Alliance, the EFF, and all of the other smaller parties. What might those coalition talks look like? Sure, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the room when those discussions are taking place. Let's continue with our coverage now and take you to the Western Cape. That's where we find our reporter, Asanda Mbetshe, who joins us now live. Asanda, the Democratic Independent Party, causing quite a stir. We've been talking here with Ziyanda Ngcobo about the IEC and the pressure it's facing. The DIP saying it's not going to take what's unfolded in these elections lying down.
Well, good morning, Michelle, and welcome to the Western Cape's Provincial Results Centre here in the Western Cape. Here in Cape Town, it's actually very quiet. It's been a quiet night. The IEC officials are not here yet. Even the parties and the broadcasters are not here yet because everything's just about done and dusted. We know that the DA has managed to get a majority for the city of Cape Town. We're waiting to see the results, the official results, for the other municipalities in the province. And as you mentioned, Michelle, yesterday, there was a disruption when the Provincial Electoral Officer, Michael Hendrickson, was briefing the media by a number of smaller political parties, including the DIP, where they raised some concerns about what had happened at voting day. Now, these issues, when you look at them, are not unique to the Western Cape. One of their main issues was the fact that some of the electoral officers involved in this work are known to be affiliated to the DA. That's an issue that has been raised by political parties, opposition parties rather, throughout the country over the years at elections, where the IEC would recruit teachers to work the elections. Teachers historically are in majority members of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, a member or an affiliate of COSATU, which is a member of the Tripartite Alliance, with the ruling or the governing ANC and the SACP. So that has been a concern for political parties, especially in opposition benches, throughout the country over a number of elections where they question the impartiality of the officers who work elections throughout the years. So that's another challenge that the IEC will have to face as it looks forward into the future and how it wants to conduct elections, including the issue of time and getting things in place. So when we are looking at today's results, we know already about the Cape Metro. We'll look to see how smaller opposition parties do in the outlying municipalities, because that's where parties like the Patriotic Alliance, the EFF, independent community movements usually get their numbers from. So we'll bring you those updates throughout the day. For now, let's go back to Ayanda at the Results Centre in Tshwane.
Yeah, Asanda, thanks very much indeed for that update from Asanda Mbetshe, live to us there in the Western Cape. And of course, the developments around that province and many other places throughout the country coming your way as we continue, I guess, covering what is hoped to be the final stretch of the election results verification process.